Good morning, Shindo here. Well, it looks as though in Syria the civil war is about to end. No surprise, considering the Russians have actually been engaging the enemy over there instead of just saying, no, 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 don't you do that, like Obama has. This is from Al Jazeera. Syrian government forces split rebel-held Aleppo in two. Thousands of civilians flee as pro-government forces split rebel-held sector in a huge push to retake the city. If you like what I do, please subscribe to my channel, comment like an adult. I have found that those comments that are like an adult, even those ones that do not agree with me, it is nice to speak to people, even those who don't agree with me, like an adult. I don't like dealing with children and childish crap. I'm not your daddy. Like my comment, like my video, please, and share my videos if you like what I do here. I have been covering Aleppo, unlike the news media on TV, for the past several months. Aleppo in Syria. Government forces have split rebel-held Aleppo in two, handing the opposition one of its largest defeats since 2012. Rebels have lost most of the northern neighborhoods in besieged East Aleppo, a monitor said on Monday, as the army pushed an offensive to retake the whole of Syria's second city. The army captured the Sakhaur, Hajariya, and Shakik Kohar neighborhoods on Monday, while Kurdish forces took the Sheikh Fair district from rebels. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said Kurdish forces in Aleppo are not officially allied with Bashar al-Assad's government in Damascus, but the opposition regards them as cooperating with the government in a bid to recapture the city. Quote, the rebels have lost control of all of the neighborhoods in the north of East Aleppo, and this is the worst defeat since they seized half the city in 2012, unquote, said Observatory Director Rami Abdel Raham. Syrian state news agency Sana reported that the capture of Hajariya and Sakhaur, as it looped footage showing some of the thousands of civilians who have fled east Aleppo in recent days as loyalist troops have advanced. The army renewed an operation to retake eastern Aleppo nearly 2 weeks ago, hoping to deal the opposition a potentially devastating blow. Quote, yesterday was the worst day we've witnessed since the war started. More than 1,500 families have fled the regime-controlled west of the city. The bombing is horrific. Abraham Abu Leith, Aleppo-based spokesman for the civil defense, told Al Jazeera. The city, which was Syria's biggest before the start of the civil war, that has killed hundreds of thousands of people, is divided between the government-held west and rebel-held east, where UN officials say at least 250,000 people remain under siege. Rebels in Aleppo have lost at least 30% of the besieged east since Saturday, as front lines continuing to cave in after nearly 5 months of siege. Drone footage released on Monday by Sana shows an aerial view of East Aleppo Jabal Bodro neighborhood after it was retaken over the weekend by government forces. Syria Al-Watan Daily, which is close to the government, said the army was advancing quickly. It said the next stage of the operation would be, quote, to divide the remaining areas into security districts that will be easily controlled and to capture them successfully, unquote. The advance would then push the gunmen to turn themselves in or accept national reconciliation under the terms of the Syrian state. East Aleppo-based journalist Zohar al-Shamal told Al Jazeera that there was, quote, a constant collapse, unquote, as rebel-held neighborhoods continue to fall to government forces. Civilians besieged for months in the east have faced serious food and fuel shortages. The observatory, which relies on a network of informants in the country to monitor the war, said that nearly 10,000 civilians have fled East Aleppo overnight on Saturday, at least 6,000 to the Kurdish-controlled northern district of Sheikh Meksoun, which is with the rest fleeing to government-held areas. Quote, it was the first exodus of the kind from East Aleppo since 2012, unquote, Abdel Rahman said, calling it, quote, the biggest defeat for the rebels in Aleppo since then. Well, it looks as though they don't mention the Russian forces here simply because the Russians aren't right now bombing the crap out of Aleppo. But I can assure you it was the Russian forces bombing the crap out of Aleppo for the last 2 weeks that was that gave the government forces the ability to go in here and basically finish off Aleppo. One thing Donald Trump said, I guess it was in the last debate, that made total sense, was that Aleppo has already fallen, and that was true. And when Aleppo goes, you can basically say that this civil war will be over, that Bashar al-Assad will not have been ousted, that he will have support of the Russians and Iran in the region, and that the United States of America, in everything they've been working for, long before, by the way, Obama. I have mentioned this in other videos, that if you remember way back when, back in 2002, 2003, the buildup of the war in Iraq, they wanted to take Syria next. A matter of fact, I can remember quite clearly on the news that Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense at the time in 2003, soon after the United States forces went into Iraq, Rumsfeld was trying to make the case within days after the war started in Iraq that war needed to go into Syria because he was claiming, you could look this up on your own if you don't believe me, he was claiming that these so-called chemical weapons that never existed, by the way, were being taken from Iraq into Syria. He made the claim that the Iraqi forces were trying to take these chemical weapons, which was the entire point. That was the bogus reason why the United States went into Iraq to begin with. Rumsfeld tried to make the claim that those chemical weapons that didn't exist were being taken from Iraq into Syria because Rumsfeld was part of this whole group, Cheney, Rumsfeld, and just about everyone in the Bush administration, his cabinet, were supportive of this idea to go after the entire region, and they had been wanting this for a very long time, long before 9/11, folks. Not long before 9/11. The the Bush administration. Look, I don't. We might see something entirely different with Trump, but all you do is you just change the head. It doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, whoever's put in that position, they're going to continue the same foreign policy initiatives that the people before them have. Their domestic policies are different often, but foreign policy, especially in the Middle East, it hasn't changed since there was a Middle East, since the Ottoman Empire fell after World War I. So this is going to be a big loss for the, let's say, the United States elite who wanted Syria and they wanted Assad out. Yeah, this is going to be a big, big loss and a huge, huge win for Russia and for Vladimir Putin. And it's just a matter of just mopping it up at this point. The Syrian war, the civil war, is ending, and the big winner is going to be Vladimir Putin, and the big loser, they're going to pin it on Obama, but the big loser is this foreign policy that they've had for years when it comes to just Syria. I mean, it was just out of the blue that all of a sudden they wanted Assad out. I mean, if they want to cast this guy as a horrible dictator, so is the people in Saudi Arabia. So are just about everybody in the Middle East. So, if you like what I do, please subscribe if you haven't already, and click like, because oftentimes I get a lot of thumbs down on my videos for one reason or another. I say it like it is. I assure you, I am not going to give you a bunch of bullshit. It's just not. It's not in my nature to do so. I will be telling you my opinion, and my opinion may not be correct. Some people may be able to show me where I am incorrect. If you do that like an adult, I love to talk to you. So, this is Shindo. Have a good Monday.